Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalif Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, reinterpreting religion through a definitely queer lens when we speak with playwright Jo Clifford, author of The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, as well as the pastor of First Churches, Reverend Sarah Buteau, where the work will be performed this weekend.
We'll also hear the stripped-down musical sounds of Matt Lorenz, also known as the one-man found instrument army Suitcase Junket, who will be performing at the Iron Horse on Saturday.
But first, it's a beautiful day to meet new wine friends.
How's us to that?
Back in the Wine Thunderdome with our Franklin County wine friend, Ken Washburn at the Leverett Village Co-op. It's a beautiful day. We're outside on the Leverett Village Co-op's little patio, and our Franklin County wine friend brought your own Franklin County wine friend to drink wine with us.
Absolutely. My pal Bobby Dolan is here. He's a volunteer at the co-op, one of my closest friends, and also a wine snob, perhaps? A wine
Bobby, are you a wine snob?
I'm working on it.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Bobby lived in France for a while, and he likes Sancerre, which we're trying to get for you here at the co-op.
I also love Sancerre.
Who doesn't love Sancerre?
Yeah. Well, what are we going to drink here, Ken Washburn?
We are not drinking Sancerre. So what we have, today, I can't remember how many times I've done this, but it's been red wines every single time. Today we have two white wines. The theme is that they're both white, and then the other theme is that both of them are from actually coastal wineries. First we have the Basque, the Amastoy, and it's a Chocolat. Chocolat is a white wine from the Basque Country, very traditional, and it's usually made up of one indigenous grape varietal called Hondarribi Zuri. I love this wine. This is actually, it's now the second most expensive wine we have at the Leverett Village Co-op for.
Yeah. Let's say...
Tubman and Lincoln.
Yeah.
Freeing the money.
A quarter Benjamin.
And then the next wine it's called the Pairen, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the second word.
I think it says Lincoln Continental. It says
I don't agree.
L'incontournable. L'incontournable.
You've been to France.
I ain't even gonna try that one.
It says Cuvée Marinée.
Yeah, and so I learned recently that Cuvée Marine or Marinée is actually, it's just the name for a traditional 3-grape blend of Colombard, Sauvignon Blanc, and Gros Mansang. And I thought it was just like a cute name for this wine, but actually it's a thing. And it's wines from southwest France that are near the ocean. It's just a popular blend. It's kind of like a table wine for like a beachfront cafe. It's got this, you can't see it right now, but it's got this really lovely foil and cap. It kind of looks like a French barbershop situation.
Yeah, and French flag.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
It's red, white, and blue.
I also thought barbershops, you're not alone.
Yeah, it's red, white, and blue, but it's slanted like a barbershop.
I feel like I have had to apologize to French and Italian folks on this show multiple times, and we're doing it once again. I totally forgot about the French flag. Both oceanfront, oceanside wineries, one from Spain and one from France. I wanted to do the Chocolat first because it has that slight spritziness. Kind of like a Vino Verde, certainly not as much as a traditional sparkling wine. A hint, really.
But it's something that kind of is pervasive in the whole region. Like, you get that in their ciders, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's that little bit of effervescence. Like, Basque region likes bubbles. Just
Dude,
a little.
Basque cider, in my opinion, is so good.
Wine people who don't like cider really like Basque cider. Basque ciders are hard for me.
Well, this Basque wine, I think it alludes to Basque cider in some ways. Basque cider has a little bit of a funk stank to it, and this has that.
Yeasty, maybe?
Yeah, very yeasty, yeah.
Definitely apples, but like a little melony. Like, this smells beachy.
Oh, looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
It's also like almost
smell beachy.
totally watercolored,
I know,
meaning
that was the
like
first
it
thing I
is
noticed.
so
It's-
clear, only the hint of a little gold.
It's so pale.
So pale.
You can see the bubbles clinging to the side of the glass here. I get a little bit of a peach gummy situation.
Yeah.
But like the most organic, pure peach gummy ever. You know,
Or
like,
like
A hippie peach gummy you'd buy at the Leverett Village
Like
Co-op.
the Japanese ones, like
Kasugai gummies.
Yeah, the
We
Kasugai
actually
gummies.
carry those.
I
here,
know.
Yeah.
Oh, shocking.
You have them in tiny snack packs, and I'm like, you mean I can get a reasonable amount so I don't have to eat the whole like 500-gram bag by myself?
They
Getting
grow those
melon.
around here, don't they?
They do grow gummies around here. I've seen them at all of the pot shops.
I always feel weird when I say this, but I get this. It smells so clean to me. Like if water had a smell.
And if water does have a smell, you should assume it's not clean. But this has got a really nice acidity that's dancing on my tongue,
A little salinity too. It's got a little bit of that kind of beachy saltiness.
given that it's coastal.
Oh, I love.
I am getting the honeydew.
Honeydew melon, yep. Also, it comes in a bottle shaped like a Riesling or a Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And has some of the acidic profile of that without some of the more diesel kind of stuff that often comes with those wines.
Honestly, I hate those. The Alsatian Rieslings, it's like an instant migraine. That petrol note. There's someone I know who like absolutely goes feral for it.
I do.
Okay, maybe it's
It
you.
might be me.
And I just think it's beastly.
Worth noting that our Franklin County wine friend Ken Washburn is a level 2 sommelier and had to quit the wine business for many years because of how migrainey wines made them feel. So we're glad that you're back in the game, but
Back,
definitely
baby.
stay away from the Mosel Rieslings with the
it's
hard
the,
diesel stuff.
It's the Alsace
Alsatian
that's
ones,
worse,
oh, yeah.
yeah.
So the bubbles are naturally occurring?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm obsessed with this one.
This is going to be
This
you
is,
could
yeah,
do I could see
great.
this with oysters, you know, basically any
If
seafood.
you like that sort of thing.
You don't like oysters?
No. What about asparagus? I just saw both Monty and Khaleesi at the Asparagus Festival. When I was in wine school, I think asparagus was kind of something that they tried to trip us up with. Like, what would you pair with asparagus?
Yeah.
And from what I learned, Gruner Veltliner is kind of the funky, salady, vegetable-y wine. But I can see this working as well.
Sure.
Yeah, same.
Grilled asparagus.
Yeah.
Not steamed or...
Who
No.
steams asparagus?
Sometimes.
Guilty.
Sometimes I steam asparagus. It's fine. You only leave it there for like 2 to 3 minutes. You just let it turn basically the color of this bottle, and you take it out.
We had roasted asparagus. We had so much asparagus after the Asparagus Festival.
bet you
We
did.
roasted asparagus in bacon fat. Ooh, no, that was good. I think that this might not be the greatest pairing with that particular version of
Definitely no.
asparagus.
There's too much fat,
However.
like, for this to try and cut through.
I like to do asparagus with brown butter and lemon and like sear it.
I've been putting it in everything because same problem. So it's gone in yakisoba. I've made like rice bowls with it, all the raw salads forever. Asparagus and apple is really nice, I have discovered.
Ooh, yeah, that's interesting. I want to try the asparagus with peanut butter.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Lesbia told us at Plainville
right.
Farm.
We're actually having a local asparagus pizza special tonight. We have every Friday we have pizza night here at the co-op. There's live music, and our pizza cook Guy and his son Jackson have been coming up with the best specials. And tonight it's called Sunderland Wonderland, and that's because the asparagus is from Smirowski Farm on Falls Road in Sunderland.
Who we went to go visit.
Oh, how wonderful!
They're
Great.
so great.
That asparagus is just unbelievably delicious.
Unless you happen to be Wally Psychowski, and then you believe absolutely the opposite.
I wouldn't feed that to a dog.
The first wine, once again, in the Wine Thunderdome at the Leverett Village Co-op with our Franklin County wine friend Ken Washburn and their Franklin County wine friend Bobby. What is it again?
The Amistoy Chocolina.
What's our second wine, Ken Washburn?
Beachy wine. It's the Piren Le Incontournable Cuvée.
You're incorrigible.
The Cuvée Marine. And this is a 3-grape blend of Colombard, Sauvignon Blanc, and Gros Mansang, and this is from southwestern France by the ocean. I consider this my house white. I am just frankly obsessed with it, but I'm also obsessed with the first wine, so let's see what happens here.
My wife is obsessed with me not spending so much money on wine, but also wanting to drink white wine. So I, without even smelling or tasting this, am going to get one. The price, which we have to bleep out, is very inexpensive.
Yes.
It is only
A
a
little
hair
bit more
over
than
a
a
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
That's why you were saying those strange
yeah.
things.
Oh.
Totally different nose.
Yeah.
Different wines, of course,
Yeah, but weirdly, like, the moment I smelled this, I'm like, oh yeah, France.
To me, it
Nice.
was, oh my, Sauvignon Blanc, because we talked about this last time we drank together, Franklin County wine friend.
Oh, you're gonna say it.
I'm going to say that it reminds me of my cat. Cat pee is the #1 note for Sauvignon Blanc, but now I've started to think of it.
Really, the
Sauvignon
number
Blanc is not
one?
cat pee. Cat pee is Sauvignon Blanc.
I would not call it the #1
For me, it
unless you're trying to make a joke
French Sauvignon.
about #1. But I will say I get grapefruit from Sauvignon
Yes.
Blanc. And you know what? I get some grapefruit from this,
Yeah.
Monty.
Quite a bit.
Also, I'm getting a minerality that I didn't necessarily pull out of the last one.
It's salty.
I got a whetstone situation
Yeah,
from this.
I was just going to say like licking a rock.
I kind of imagine like a bunch of fresh fruit that's been like cut up and served on a whetstone. I always have to say something weird, otherwise it's not me being on the radio with you guys. You know, like a whetstone serving platter, something you'd get
Yeah,
at like
like
a
a
Crate and
slate.
Barrel or something. Yes.
Like something you'd see on We Need Plates, dripping with a sauce that should have been on something that had a rim.
Welcome back to We Want Plates, and I appreciate presentation when it comes to meals, but sometimes it just goes a little bit too far.
Bobby's very focused.
Bobby has.
Yeah, it's not jumping out at me yet.
You're not getting any notes on it, huh?
You've had this one before,
I'm definitely
right?
not getting the cat urine.
Do you have a
because
cat?
We have 3 cats,
Oh, they're
2 of
lovely
whom
cats.
are literally in a pissing contest.
Oh no!
And guess who's losing?
You.
You!
Yes, I'm taking a break from that right now. I'm not getting any of those notes here.
Yeah, you probably have mentally blocked it out because of the trauma you're experiencing.
I get a dried apricot situation from this. Wow, situation. I'm around too many Gen Z folks.
The first thing that y'all have said that I can get onto. dried apricot.
Nice. I'm right.
Apricots to me are less acidic, so there's something more acidic. Like the grapefruit thing is more what I'm getting because it's such an acidity with it.
And it's grapefruit oil on the nose and then rind on the palate.
The classic beginner wine tasting grid question: do we get lemon or do we get lime? That's what if I'm ever teaching anyone about wine tasting, I say with a white wine, thought experiment: are we getting lemon or are we getting lime?
Lime.
I also think lime. But I had a tick on my eyelid yesterday,
Which is-
so maybe I have lime.
That's because you were singing to them and calling them to you.
Insects on my face. Insects crawling on my face.
Made me feel like an old man because, you know, ticks want to go in the nooks and crannies. My eyelids must be so old and like folding over right now that a tick wants to live there. And also hard to get a tick off your eyelid. It hurts.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm sorry that happened to you.
But it's a good thing I don't have COVID because you know what you call it then.
No.
Come on.
I'm not answering that.
Corona with lime. Corona with lime. Corona with lime is my new favorite joke.
Oh no.
You're a few years late, but
Have you heard that one before?
a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
I've never heard
Jeez.
it.
Shall we revisit before we vote? Go back to the first one and tell me what you think.
This got super perfumey going back.
Whoa,
It
weird.
totally
There's
changed.
something strange happening.
Here's the weird thing.
Getting a vegetable.
Corn on the cob.
Situation. Oh.
I was
raw?
like a cooked,
boiled, like with
like a boiled, not
Oh,
with
I
the
get
butter.
Like I got like a raw
Here's the
corn.
weird thing. If you take corn on the cob and you're eating it, especially if it was just boiled, and suck the juices in, my child, when he was very young, told me this, and I didn't believe him. It tastes like chocolate milk. And it's crazy, but please try it when the corn is ready.
So, like, that makes sense because, like, if you think about the way that chocolate used to be made in Aztec times, it was always mixed with cornmeal.
Right,
Like,
and also now it's
for good reasons.
And now it's made with corn syrup half the time. So
Like,
there you
like
go.
everything else.
To your corn thing, this now kind of tastes like corn silk tea. I don't know if anyone else
Never
has-
had that.
Yeah, it's a thing that you can have. It's actually like really beneficial, but it's got like this mild sweetness that you get with corn silk tea that I quite like.
I would love to try that.
Yeah, me too.
Bobby, what are you thinking?
I'm getting a nice hint of plastic cement. I used
you know what,
to make
actually?
models, plastic models, you know, airplanes and cars and things, and the cement testers.
Oh
Cement.
yeah. So now we're leaning more towards the diesel, like the volatile chemical situation.
I still like it. Don't worry.
So hopefully it doesn't give you a migraine. Let's revisit number 2.
Back to France.
Yay, white
John,
wine.
are these on the same side? Are these?
I'm gonna look at a map.
I'm trying to remember if the Pyrenees has any coastal region in the Atlantic, and it must, because otherwise geography doesn't make sense.
These are actually gonna be very close to each other.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Just
on the
double
first one.
down on the grapefruit.
That white part of the grapefruit, like under the rind, but before you get to the
Yeah, the pith.
pith.
Yeah, yeah.
Wine snobs. That's a good wine snob
love
thing to
pith.
put in your quiver.
It's
Wine snobs
actually-
love to say like it's like a pith.
Putting that word in my newsletter today.
Pith.
Yeah, pith.
This newsletter will be pithy.
Yes.
I'm still going with quiver. Wow.
I'm all a quiver with your quiver. Okay, Bobby, you have not done this before yet, but this is called a wine Thunderdome, which means 2 wines enter and 1 wine leaves, a la Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, starring Tina Turner.
Oh, I remember that. Oh,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
was amazing.
She was amazing.
She was amazing. She was the best part of that
Starring
movie.
Tina Turner and only Tina Turner.
Yes.
We vote as to which one we would like to take home with us right now.
Oh, for me, absolutely no question. It's this first one, which I'm not going to try to pronounce.
The chocolate.
Basque.
The
The
chocolate.
Chocolate
Amos
Basque.
toy.
Amos toy.
Yeah.
Khalees, you ready to vote?
I'm also with the Almastoy, especially with how like florally it got. It just literally turned into perfume. It was delicious.
I third that emotion. I'm going with the Basque, and although I will actually be buying the other wine for my wife because of how affordable it is, the one I most like right now is the chocolate.
I think it's unanimous. I think it is perfect white wine.
Oh yeah.
It is the second most expensive wine you have at the Leverett Village Co-op. But
Worth
the
every
Leverett,
penny.
the Leverett Village Co-op does not have very expensive wines.
Yes, we are known for our bargains.
Well, it's always delightful to drink with our Franklin County wine friend, Ken, and now our other Franklin County wine friend, Ken and Bobby.
Woohoo!
Thanks for having me.
Come out next time. Now we expect you. That's how it works.
We'll see you for asparagus pizza night later tonight.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be fun.
Insects on my face.
This is my new favorite song.
Crawling on my face.
Until I got a tick on my face after singing this song about insects on my face ad nauseum. It's from an album of all ringtones by a New York band called Dream Eaters, who describe themselves as the Carpenters meet Slayer.
I mean, I love it, but also, again, like you called them, they're listening, which is why they showed up.
The ticks
because
showed up
clearly they're like,
onto
oh,
my
you
face.
want us to be here? Okay.
The other Dream Eaters song I can't get out of my head is "We're going to the library." No, we're going to the craft fair at the library. They just sing one-liners like that, and I love it. Anyway.
Soon we'll explore the divine in all of us, especially reframed through a transgender lens, with the folks behind the upcoming performance of The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven.
But next, Live Music Friday ventures north to hang out with the multi-instrumentalist and instrument creator Suitcase Junket.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to Live Music Friday on the Fabulous 413. Joining us is the Suitcase Junket. Suitcase Junket is the professional moniker of Western Mass homesteader, backyard chickener, and daddy, Matt Lorenz. When you hear him live, you may, as I have many times, think, oh, he's finally got a live band with him now. But no, most of the time it is a full-sounding band of one.
Matt Lorenz has handcrafted various instruments, allowing him to play guitar solo, but using his other limbs to trigger other musical contraptions to fill out his sound. Matt also uses overtone singing to literally harmonize with himself. He did so on our show, and we had him very briefly at the Green River Festival last year.
That's right, and
Gave
we're
us
going to be
an example.
broadcasting live from the Green River Festival again in a couple weeks. Shameless plug.
The Suitcase Junket plays the newly reopened Iron Horse Music Hall tomorrow, Saturday, June 8th, and joins us right now for Live Music Friday. Thank you so much for coming into the studios.
Thanks for having me in. Excited to be here.
Let's start out with a song.
All right.
In my hand, a burning note, on your shoulders hangs my coat. The sun is down and the moon is new. The sky's that sunken shade of blue. And if we'd gone another way, I might have found the words to say that it was true and you were right. But as it is, no sleep tonight. We were born wolves in the dog days of summer. We were born wolves in the dog days. We were born wolves in the dog days of summer. We were born wolves in the dog days. I came into a bright idea, I told you so, and how it feels, a burning boat out on a lake, a fire lit, a birthday cake. It made no sense, but it rang of truth. You said it's like a hit of youth, that wonder woken up, a spark, a glowing thing out in the dark. We were born wolves in the dog days of summer. We were born wolves in the dog days. We were born wolves in the dog days of summer. We were born wolves in the dog days. We have no certainty, the world is mean and kind. So I feed the meter that keeps running on my mind. And when it's time to go, we'll know, and so be fine. Embrace and say, hey babe, I see you down the line. But we were born wolves in the dog days of summer. We were born wolves in the dog days. We were born wolves in the dog days of summer. We were born wolves in the dog days.
Suitcase Junket, this live music Friday. Matt Lorenz playing at the Iron Horse in Northampton tomorrow, Saturday, June 8th.
Yeah.
What's your relationship to the Iron Horse before this Phoenix from the Ashes moment that it's having right now?
I've spent a lot of time on that stage over the years between the fundraisers they used to do where you would sort of do a tribute to a different artist every year. I think there were Red Cross fundraisers, and then Rusty Bell played there, did a couple CD release shows there. The Suitcase Junket, I think I only played there once. I think I was opening for Leon Redbone.
Wow.
I know. And after the show, everyone had him kind of cornered and was chatting him up because, he's a chatter. And so people were shouting out different songs, and he would sort of sing a snippet of songs. So I was like, my grandfather was a big jazz guy, and he loved Moonlight Becomes You. I said, oh, Leon, Moonlight Becomes You. And he just said, thank you. Like, all right, fair enough. Well played, sir.
He's used that one before, I have a feeling.
I would imagine.
Yeah, one of those times I remember you doing with Rusty Bell was, I do believe, the Rolling Stones tribute, where I think most of your clothes were not on.
Oh, I forgot about that one. That's right.
I'm sorry I missed that one.
It was an amazing performance, but I remember that pretty specifically. That's not a thing that necessarily happens when you have giant piles of instruments in front of you.
That is no longer part of the show.
No.
But I remember that. Now that you said it, it was some very tight purple pants.
Yep.
And Kate and I were trading verses, and it was Beast of Burden.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think I might dig into those sort of old cover tunes from those years, because there was a Lou Reed tribute and Tom Petty tribute. So
yeah,
I might pull some deep cuts out.
We'll see. That'd be fun to see the way that you do them.
Yeah, you also did some great covers at Trans Performance, that fundraiser, including I remember you doing Eye of the Tiger there.
Oh yeah.
And then I feel like I remember you working that into like your regular set more frequently, or like
that did happen for the rest of that year.
You do Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody."
Oh yeah,
incredibly as well too. I mean,
that's a fun one.
Speaking with the Suitcase Junket, this live music Friday.
But your original music is also awesome. It's not just about the covers and the way that you can manipulate them into the giant pile of music that this cloud of instrumentation that you just surround yourself with on stage these days. And each album has gotten, I would say, progressively more electric, ironically. Was that just feeling it out? It feels almost inverse to your homesteading. Like your music got more electric and your life got a little bit further off the grid.
More analog, yeah. Yeah, there is a little bit of that. I mean, some of it was from touring a lot and playing different kinds of shows and getting on festival stages and getting a little bit hooked on the feeling of people dancing. And so, also bringing on producers, and they bring different sounds. So working with Steve Berlin from Los Lobos, the past couple of records, he's all about, the studio and finding those perfect sounds. And so it's gotten bigger and bigger. And with this next record, so that first song I played is a new one that's not recorded yet.
Woo!
So
you heard it here first.
That's right. That's right. And so I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a pullback into something a little bit more intimate on the next record, but that's sort of still in the works.
Do you feel like it's harder to, when you're so concentrated on studio sound and then you take it on tour, is it hard to replicate? Do you feel the need to really replicate what people heard in the studio, or just want to change it so that it's its own experience when people come to see you live?
Probably more the latter, because I can't really replicate the studio sound. One thing it does do, it will sometimes expand my instrumentation of what I bring. Like there's a floor tom, which is one of the only real instruments in the band, that there is one song from a couple records ago that just needed it, and so it made the touring outfit. And same, there was a keyboard for a little while that now is broken and did not get repaired. But so there will be some expansions, a couple of guitar pedals that will open up the sound and allow for just a little bit more diversity of sound within the set. Because that's one thing when you're doing everything yourself. With you can only do so much.
Right.
I'm not using loopers or anything like that, so it's all live stuff. So just trying to make it so that people's ears don't get tired of you.
Are you ever tempted to get a band together and play with a band? Because if you've seen him, it's like him and the tom and a little piano sometimes, and like a skill saw that has a drum pedal attached to it that he's using as percussion. It's crazy and incredible. But are you ever tempted to play with other human beings?
I am. But
Again,
yes, because you have done that.
Right.
But you have to feed them. You have to put them in beds and pay them money. It's like a whole. It's like such an endeavor.
Yeah.
And also I think if I did that, I would maybe hire 3 to 5 singers who also bang on things.
Yeah.
Not so much like just add a bass player or add a drummer.
I love
you know?
this.
So I've thought about it, but every time I actually get into the logistics of doing it, you know, because I do like playing with other people. You know, the thing I miss the most is harmonizing, you know, singing with other people. 'Cause singing is the best, you know.
We're speaking with Matt Lorenz, who is the Suitcase Junket, who is playing at the Iron Horse Music Hall, coming back to play there on Saturday, June 8th, tomorrow. And we keep mentioning that you're a homesteader and that you're creating all these, you know, weird contraptions and things like that. You're also a dad.
Yeah.
You were touring extensively, and now you've really dialed that back to a certain extent to fit into the new lifestyle that you're creating. Can you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, you know, COVID was just COVID. You were there.
I was there.
We all were.
You remember.
Sequestered.
Yeah, so I went from touring 200 days out of the year to being home all the time, and then we had our first kid that first summer of COVID. And then, you know...
named her COVID, actually.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. Corona.
Corvid.
And so it was clear that I wasn't going to go back to that schedule with young kids. We had our second kid a couple of years into COVID. And I've been able to sort of do some long weekend touring, maybe 5 days at a time here and there to keep me going, because I'm not ready to give up or get a real job.
Yeah.
So it's been really good for my mental health, I think, being on the road that much. It's kind of a young man's game, especially when you're doing it all alone, you know, because I was keeping a low overhead. I wasn't bringing a band or a tour manager or anything. So it was a lot. It was like working 4 jobs, you know. I was a professional driver.
Yeah, well, can we talk about your vehicle for a little bit?
Oh.
I remember we were at the Green River Festival, and I think it was like the debut of like what you had done. They call them conversion vans, but most people don't convert them.
Yeah,
You did.
I did. I miss it. I had to get rid of it.
Oh!
I know.
R.I.P. conversion
I
van.
know.
Yeah.
Yes. It was this beautiful home. I built this little satellite home for myself on the road. You know, it was one of these empty, what would you call it? A work van. And I built a bunk in the back. All of the gear went in on the backside. I had a living room, so I could actually have a space that I called my own. I spent a lot of time sleeping in it, but there was only 2 seats. So when the second kid came along, I wasn't going to install seats myself and then put kids in them.
Oh, right. Probably smart.
So I have a smaller version with kid seats in the back, and the rock and roll edge is a little bit shaved off. But,
Is it full on minivan or
still,
no?
It's a yes. I mean,
okay.
It's
you just got to embrace
transit.
that.
It's a Ford Transit still, so it's
not a minivan then.
It's got sliding doors on both sides.
But there's a lot of room in those.
There is. Yeah. It's still. Oh. I miss it so much. But it didn't make sense. You know, I'm going out and I'm not sleeping in the van anymore. You know, I'm 42 years old. I'm sleeping in hotels now.
Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
all that hard work you did going on 200 dates a year that kind of paid off to this end, right?
That's right. Yeah, it ground me down to a nub.
You also mentioned that you've got a new album headed our way. Can we have around like nebulous release date, titles?
I am writing towards it. I think I have all the songs. They're yet to be sort of polished and tweaked into shape. I think spring of 25 would be, I really need to work to a deadline. And so now that I've said that,
we're going to hold you to
it's
it.
on.
I'm going to email you once a month and be like, Matt,
hey,
are you going to be
how's
working
that album going?
with Steve Berlin again from Los
yeah,
Lobos?
He's been texting me about once a month too. I just got one from him, just a gentle reminder to send me some songs. I'm like, okay, I have them. I'm ready.
I love that. Like gentle reminders are never gentle. They're like,
I can feel the edge beneath your gentleness.
Well, let's hear another song from Suitcase Junket, who's going to be playing back in his home haunts again at the Iron Horse in Northampton, Saturday, June 8th, tomorrow.
I will say that it's just because we're excited. The points are because we're excited.
I'll play another new one for you. One more mile, baby, one more mile till I'm back in your arms. One more mile, baby, one more mile. Never felt so far.
Yeah, I maybe stayed away too long this time. I was searching for that perfect highway rhyme, but what I found is several thousand shades of home. In every crowded room I still was all alone. One more mile, babe, one more mile, till I'm back in your arms. One more mile, babe, one more mile, never felt so far. But in the garden where we grow our favorite greens is a promise that is worth more than it seems. 'Cause in the diamonds of the dew on the dappled leaves is a ring I'll give to you each season. One more mile, baby, one more mile, till I'm back in your arms. One more mile, babe, one more mile, never felt so far. Never felt so far. Oh, but when the sunbeams are in my eyes, setting over strange and gray skylines, you can bet that you've been on my mind like a spider in a beehive. One more mile, babe, one more mile, I'm back in your arms. One more mile, babe, one more mile, never felt so far. Never felt so far. Never felt so far.
Suitcase Junket, Live Music Friday. That's like the homesteading song. It sounds like you're coming home from the 200 days of touring.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
And you could hear the overtone singing that he was doing in there, which is the harmonizing with yourself.
Yeah, that's from driving. I found that out just from making weird sounds in the car for a bunch of years. And I'm like, what is that? What is that, a high overtone thing? And then,
But the fact, like, I can maybe make that sound once in a while, but you can actually control its pitch and turn it into its own tiny little instrument. It's the craziest thing. I mean, there's whole traditions of ancient music that do this, the tube and throat singers, etc. But bringing it into the rock is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah. It's there's also this cowboy singer named Arthur Miles from the 1920s who did it, and I sort of feel related to him because it was a sort of like organic, like, oh, what's this? I imagine him, being out on the range. He was a Texan guy. You can find one of his recordings on, YouTube or wherever, The Lonesome Cowboy. It's one of these long ballads, and he does the same kind of overtone
I can't wait to check that out now.
But for a long time when I first started, I would be like, hey guys, check this out. And it was like nothing. They're like, that's neat, man. Maybe just practice it more.
That's what good going around driving will do for you. You know, when I'm not listening to NPM, I'm listening to 45-hour-long audiobooks, so you can accomplish a lot.
That's right.
As we often say, practice makes better.
Yeah.
Practice makes better.
Yeah. Matt Lorenz, Suitcase Junket, local boy made good, playing the Iron Horse once again on Saturday tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, and good luck with your growing season.
Thank you.
Tickets are still available for Suitcase Junket show at the Iron Horse tomorrow.
But things have been selling out there a lot lately, so get on it. And if you go, ask about the ball tongue.
Yes, he remembers all the words from that Rusty Bell song about if your mom's dad's bald, then you're going to be bald. But next time he comes in, we'll have him perform it live. Yeah, that'll be great. Up next, a queer take on the Messiah with Jo Clifford and the Reverend Sarah Buteau connecting to bring the gospel according to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, to First Churches in Northampton tomorrow.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Love us. us as we are. See us and we're whole.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, is a one-woman, sight-responsive theatrical piece in which Jesus has returned to earth as a trans woman.
The play is written and performed by one of Scotland's most renowned playwrights, Jo Clifford, author of over 100 plays, Stonewall role model, and Saltire Society Outstanding Woman.
In celebration of Pride Month, Bombyx Center for Arts and Equity, First Churches of Northampton, Florence Congregational Church, and Translate Gender will host the Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven at First Churches on Main Street in Northampton tomorrow, Saturday, June 8th.
It takes a village. We are joined by playwright and performer Jo Clifford and the pastor of First Churches, the Reverend Sarah Buteau. Thank you so much for joining us, the both of you.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Sure.
We were talking off the air a little bit, Jo, that this has been performed all over the world, but this is the first time in the United States?
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, that's right. And I was saying, you're behind Norway, Australia, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Ireland, Scotland, and England. So it's wonderful that at last you're catching up.
It takes us a while, but we get there eventually. Sometimes.
Now, First Churches, we had you on last time, Reverend Sarah Buteau, on when Peter Ives, the former Reverend of First Churches, became Pastor Emeritus there. Is it the Ives and Fleming Ives connection that brings Scotland to Northampton?
You know it is.
It was Jenny Fleming Ives, the wife of Peter Ives, who brought this to my attention originally. But Jo, tell us about your relationship with the Fleming Iveses.
Well, they came across to Scotland very recently.
They summer there, I think, very frequently.
And that's where I met them. It was lovely to see them. But the connection with Scotland is that they advised a lovely person called
Rebecca Stewart.
To go to Iona, which was a place very close to their huts, really important pilgrimage centre. And I just happened to be there, and I just happened to be performing the Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, in this extraordinary medieval abbey. And Rebecca saw me and was very inspired to invite me back here. So that's the other real connection.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You've been performing this work for over 15 years, about 15 years?
Yeah, I'd say it was about 15 years, yeah.
What's changed about the way that it's performed now as opposed to when you started?
Well, when I started, we couldn't get no theatres would take the show because it was actually so controversial, they were frightened. And so we'd perform in all kinds of weird places, pubs, hotels, village halls, all kinds of things. And then we were getting into theatres, and just before COVID struck, we were getting into quite big theatres, but that stopped everything. And now I'm starting again performing in churches in a very, very basic way. It's just me, Jesus, Queen Jesus' white dress, and a prayer bell.
It's funny. It's not funny, actually. It's a little bit frustrating, to be honest, that anytime we have trans issues on this show, we usually get some angry emails. So I'm imagining putting this in a religious context makes it, as you were mentioning, that much more controversial and dramatic. And I want to talk with you, Reverend Sarah, about why this is something you and other churches wanted to bring forward and support. But Jo Clifford, who wrote and performs the play, I also, see that you were blocked as a writer until this play came from you. Tell us what brought you to this play.
Well, I wasn't blocked as a writer so much. I was blocked as a performer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I'd written a lot as a man. I was pretty well established, but I was trying to find a way to express what it's like to be trans, because there was nothing. When I grew up, there was no trans representation at all, and it's really important that people get the chance to hear our story. And I started off writing a play about a trans God in the Old Testament, to try to understand why. Why do people hate each other so much? Why did I hate myself so much? So I read a play called God's New Frock, and then somehow it ended up in Italy, and so I got invited to write a sequel in the New Testament. And I read the New and I hadn't read the New Testament for years and years and years. And And I was so moved. I was so moved by what I found there in terms of how Jesus loved people that were marginalized, loved people that were suffering from prejudice. And I knew, okay, if I was to meet Jesus, he would love me. And I wanted to write something that would really express that kind of sense of love and that sense of devotion. That's what I wanted to do. It was written as a homage to Jesus, and I thought no one would be interested. And so I was completely freaked out to arrive at the theatre for the first performances and find the street outside full of hundreds of religious protesters of the kind you've just been talking about, Monty. I was deeply shocked. And then it was in the, it was in the press, and then I was denounced by an archbishop. First, quite a few archbishops who have denounced me, and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people online wrote to say how disgusting I was and how disgusting the play was and how dreadful it was. But I was so traumatized and so distressed. But at the same time, I realized that I'd touched a chord somewhere, that I must be saying something important. And so that's a very important realization I owe to my enemies. Love your enemies, Jesus said, and I owe them a great deal because they taught me that this play was important and that I should do all I can to keep it alive. And I've been performing it ever since, all over the world. Yeah.
Do you feel that this sequel resonated a little bit better with you than the work with the Old Testament?
Well, yes, because it's this is a work of love. The work about the Old Testament was very angry.
The Old Testament is pretty angry as source material.
Well, the poor old Jehovah, you see, he'd been suppressing the worship of the mother god. So he'd been doing the same as me. He'd been suppressing the female side of himself, which is the most important side. And that's why Jehovah is such a miserable, unhappy, angry person. And I tried to redeem him.
We're speaking with playwright and performer Jo Clifford, who is behind The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, which will be performed tomorrow, supported by several churches, including Florence Congregational Church and First Churches, where the performance will be tomorrow night. The pastor of First Churches, the Reverend Sarah Buteau, joins us as well. Let's take a quick little break, and then I want to hear about, from a theological standpoint, where the Jesus of the Bible meets up with the Jesus of this play, in your opinion, Pastor Sarah.
Yeah, and I'm curious about how you've got the stage set up because I've seen pictures and I'm just fascinated. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
But I love it. Command me to be well. Without losing a piece of me, how do I get to heaven?
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We're joined by Jo Clifford, the playwright and actor behind The Gospel of Jesus, Queen of Heaven, which will be performed tomorrow, Saturday the 8th, at First Churches in Northampton. We're also joined by the pastor of First Churches, the Reverend Sarah Buteau. We heard from Jo that at the beginning of this play, there were protesters outside wanting to, shut it down, to say what was blasphemous, essentially, about this. You are a pastor, you are a theologian, and you've read this play several times. Where does the Jesus of the Gospel meet up with the Jesus of the Gospel, the Jesus Queen of Heaven Gospel, I guess?
Well, the first thing I think about Jesus, if he were in this situation, he would read more than the title. And all of those people who were outside protesting only knew the title.
Right.
They hadn't read the play. They hadn't experienced it. And had they gone in, I think they would have been blown away. Because as you listen to this voice of Jesus, Queen of Heaven, there is such tenderness and love and appreciation for the beauty of humanity, the diversity of humanity, the beauty of the human experience. It is enfleshed. It is incarnate. It is about the divinity, the divine experience of being in a body, and how we ought to honor that in each other, not tear that down or hate on that or discard one another, but honor one another. And so when I think about the Jesus of the Bible as and hold that next to this beautiful work of devotion that Jo has created, to me, it's very much the same Jesus. It is a Jesus that is full of love for all of us. The people outside hating as much as the people inside craving a connection with the divine. That Jesus is trying. I like to say that Jesus loves 100%.
Right.
Not just the 99%. And this and Jo captures that, just this expansiveness, this expansive love.
That's wonderful.
That's gorgeous.
So before Monty asked, why would you want to put on a production like this? And it's because I think when you hear the word Christian now, when you think about churches, what you hear in the media is a lot of hate and a lot of people trying to control the bodies of others, denigrating others, tearing people down. And not all Christians are like that. Not all churches are like that. My church is certainly not like that. My church is a place that welcomes Jo with open arms in the fullness of herself and can celebrate her gifts and can celebrate the gift of this play.
It always feels like when that happens that there is a fundamental disconnect with the text with which they are referencing and like an intentionality to excise the pieces that aren't conforming with their idea of what Jesus did and does in that scripture. And to that end, like, so I've seen some pictures of how you've staged this, and it's with everybody coming to you, around you at a table. Talk about bringing the audience into this performance as part of that act and performance of love.
Well, that's a very beautiful way we were able to do it in theatres. So we would have a long table on stage, and the audience came and sat around and joined me. And then some of them chose to sit in the regular theatre.
Was it like the Last Supper where everybody sat on the same side?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and it was a beautiful way to do it. I mean, here in this beautiful church, that's not necessary because it's so beautifully made, and everybody is part of it architecturally. It's amazing. First Churches Northampton is the most beautiful building I think I've ever performed in. It's just gorgeous, and it's kind of made for the kind of show that I'm doing. It's lovely.
Have you only just gotten to town? Have you been rehearsing it here this week?
Well, I spent an hour in the church the other day. So we're going to see. Because there's no lighting, I can kind of improvise. It'll be beautiful, I think.
Jo Clifford, who wrote this, The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, who will perform it tomorrow at First Churches, was there one story from the Gospels that stood out to you in particular that showed you the kind of Jesus that you thought needed to be portrayed in this way?
There was once a man who had 2 sons, and the younger came to know she was his daughter and didn't know what to do. And in the end, she went to her father and she said, "Father, forgive me, for I can no longer be called your son." Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's the prodigal daughter. But every single one of these amazing, beautiful, profound, loving stories that Jesus told is about us. So the Good Samaritan is the good drag queen, for instance, and so on. And there's such beautiful messages of acceptance and love and gentle humour throughout the whole of Gospels. And it's a joy to discover that and be able to share it to people. I love doing it.
I think Queen Jesus brings the Jesus of the Gospels alive. So this idea that what would Jesus be like if he came back as a trans woman? If you come tomorrow, you might just find out.
And how would Jesus be accepted if he came back as a trans woman? Probably in a very similar way he was treated when he came around that first time.
Not in Northampton.
Maybe not in Northampton.
But,
no, I hope not, dear. That's a really pessimistic thought.
We're not quite prepared for that tomorrow. But I think it's important to note that Jo and other trans performers have risked their lives all around the world to perform this.
Jo is Jo Clifford, who is the writer and performer of the Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, which will be performed tomorrow at First Churches Northampton. The pastor of First Churches, the Reverend Sarah Buteau, has joined us as well. Thank you both so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week on the Fabulous 413,
Find tickets and information at bombix.live.
Google.com. The next week on the Fabulous 413, I'm not here, so it's all you, Khalees.
Yep, so we're going to be celebrating a lot of Juneteenth things, celebrations in town, black folks doing really wonderful things in Western Mass. And special thank you and farewell to our NEPM colleague, Vanessa Pabon, who for 14 years has been fostering young media journalists and more. Congratulations on your next endeavor.
See you next week on the Fabulous 413.
Well, I will. You won't.